300 families, over 1,000 orphans are going to benefit. Please help me reach my target now. Yes, that's correct. Not only does it encourage you to read, it tells you how many verses you've read, how many pages you read, how long you've been on it, and best of all, the Hasana counter. Download the Qur'ani app now and have a Ramadan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book like you've never had before.
Okay guys, so I've stopped. What's your name? Bridget and
Dan.
And Dan. Okay, sorry. No, hey, you stopped for my time. Start again, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so there's impossible existence. For example, you can't have a square triangle, right? It's an impossible existence. You have possible existence and you have necessary existence. Yeah? Possible existence are like me, you, and him. Yeah? Come on, enjoy this. Yeah? I'm breaking it down. So, impossible existence is a triangle. Can you have a triangle circle or a triangle square?
No.
It's an impossible existence. So we have possible existence, which are people like me, you, etc. Yeah? And then we have necessary existence. Yeah? And we have necessary existence, right? Which I'm going to prove that is God Almighty. Okay. So now the example that I'm going to give is the following. I'm going to start off with Google. Google, in order for its existence, it relies on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we say is it relies on the internet. What does the internet rely for its existence?
Servers.
Electricity.
iPad, phone, computer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say computers, yeah? Computer. What does a computer rely on for its existence? You mentioned it. Electricity. Sorry, my bad. I forgot to screen record. Yeah, there we go. So electricity, yeah, electricity. Now, Google is a dependent thing. It depends on something else for its existence, which is the internet. So Google depends on the internet for its existence. The internet depends on what? The computer for its existence, right? So Google depends on the internet depends on the computer depends on electricity. Now, the electricity relies on solar panels, and us human beings, yeah? So it relies on humans for its existence. Now, what do we rely on? Food, shelter, sleep, etc. Yeah? So as you can see, the chain is growing. Food, sleep, etc., etc. Now, if we have an infinite amount of dependent things, we'll have the fallacy of infinite regress. Meaning, we need a necessary being for everything to make sense. Now, this necessary being, which has to be independent. So what did we say? We are dependent beings. We need an independent being in order for us to be alive. That makes sense. An example that I usually give is a seabed. So this is the sea, right? And we have a lot of creatures living in there, fishes, octopuses, yeah? Can we ever have sea and all the creatures inside without the seabed? No. So the analogy that I'm giving here is that the seabed is everything the sea and creatures fall back on, right? So what we say is that because we live in this world and we're all dependent beings, we necessarily require an independent, self-sufficient being in order for everything to make sense, right? And you guys know, from nothing, nothing comes, right? Can we ever get something without nothing? Okay, so what we say is, just because we cannot get it from nothing, therefore something has to cause us, which we call God, in a nutshell. Now, is there anywhere that you believe I may have been wrong in this argument?
Oh no, it's the assumption that has a human form, or like that will communicate with us in the first place.
Who's that? You're talking about God?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, why would God have a human form, or even want to talk to humans? You know, like, why would He specify that Earth is like a particular importance to it?
Okay.
If He's busy building the whole universe, why do we matter?
That's a very interesting question. You know, you said something very interesting actually. Have you guys seen that video where it shows our planet compared to the sun and compared to like the universe. Have you seen that video? It's profound, right? So we're like a little speck. So now we don't believe as Muslims that God is a human being. He's not a man. There's nothing like him. Yeah, he's self-sufficient. So we don't say he's a man that, you know, some Christians believe he was Jesus, etc. Yeah. Well, the question you said is, why would he want to communicate with us? Now the question is very important. Something so amazing, which is God Almighty, the fact that he cares about us so much that we're a little speck, but he wants guidance for us, and he wants us to know our purpose and why we're here. So yes, you might say, why would something so magnificent even care about us? But the fact that he cares about us shows about his mercy, because we believe God is the most merciful, he's the most just, he's the most wise, he's the all-knowing, right? So, but in a nutshell, do you guys accept that we all have to depend on something independent, which has to be God? Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense for us to be here.
Basically, like you said, there's a bunch of things that have been caused by an initial causer.
Yes. And that
why does that have consciousness? Or actually like have a personality, or what we relate to ourselves as like as having compassion? Like, that's not necessarily true just because there's an initial cause. That could be a rock falling.
Oh, good. So what that means is, for example, that you guys would accept the premise of being a deist, meaning there is some kind of power, but why wouldn't it be a rock? Well, what we say is that in our universe, there is intelligence, there is power, there is knowledge. Therefore, the independent being, which is God Almighty, he has to be the designer. He has to be intelligent. Because how can we have those properties in our universe, but God doesn't have those properties? How can I give rise to something that I do not myself have?
Oh, that's where evolution fits in, because the point is the most intelligent beings survive, and so over time you get more and more intelligent beings. Okay, but so you find, you know, societies like we have today, where we can have conversations like that.
Of course, but if you think about it, evolution talks about, for example, the first cell. The first cell, where did that come from? Even if we go evolution, yeah, evolution is not random events happening. There's order. Yeah, there's things that are happening. So, for example, our point is the first cell that was made. Yeah, where did that first cell came from? Which was my argument that it cannot come from nothing. So
they've already replicated the first cells, like in laboratories. If you apply electricity to chemicals like clay, you can actually create self-replicating.
But you know what they're doing? It's like, for example, I give you £20, you thank the £20 rather than thanking me, and you make, with that £20 you make more £20. They're using the cell that God made to replicate more. The credit goes to God, not them. What they're doing is good. They're replicating it, they're using electricity to put clay, I'm with that, I'm well and good. But you're taking the credit of God. Imagine, like,
it's shown that there is an explanation that doesn't rely on God.
No, but it does, because the fact that the first cell exists, where did the first cell come from? It cannot come from nothing, and the first cell is quite a complex property here. We're not talking about just like a little liquid. It's got, you know, DNA inside it and a variety of other stuff, and we know how the DNA works. It's the reason why you look the way you look and the way I look and the way you look. Yeah, DNA is something that is a property that's a working machine. Like this book has information in it, right? Information requires intelligence. The DNA is more complex than all these books put together.
So your argument basically is that because something's highly complicated, it can't be explained through any means other than an intelligent being making it.
Well, not necessarily, because then you would say, okay, well, God Almighty is more complex in design. Does he require a creator? My point is this: if there is design, it requires a designer. Because the best possible explanation to that is, where did the first cell come from, which is quite complex, that it gave life, that scientists today are replicating via that. And even when it comes to aeroplanes, we learned to make these things via other things, like the flies, the birds. We look at how things work. We are looking at God's creation, but what we do, we're giving credit to scientists. Like, what field do you guys work?
No, we're at uni.
University, yeah? Imagine you do a university essay, and you get A star, and I'm sure you guys do, yeah? I'll pray for you guys. Imagine somebody took credit for that and said, you know what, I did it. Bridget, she copied from me. How would you feel?
Not good.
So how do you think with God Almighty, where people are giving credit to things that he has created? Yeah?
How do you know that God's the creator of these things rather than the theories that scientists have?
Okay. Okay, but when we talk about the Big Bang, we're going to a point of initial explosion. Yeah?
There's more proof for that than like the existence of God.
No, but this shows the existence of God. You know why? Because what you're saying is there was an explosion.
Yeah.
yeah, and the universe is expanding, and we go to a singular point where there's some scientists say that it was like the size of an orange. You're telling me that everything within this universe was the size of an orange. The point is, what
Created that.
caused it?
Well, there's theories that have developed now, where it says just that there was a universe before that.
Oh yeah.
Multiverse theory.
And then it contracted and actually became the size of that, and then just
Okay.
this is the last big
It's
bang
called the
that we've had.
multiverse theory, or it's called the steady state theory, yeah? The point is this, even if that's the case, there are 1 million universes. The point is this, the fact that there are a million universes, what caused that universe to exist? Because what was our premise? Something cannot come from nothing. So those universes, either, were they always there?
I feel like this is a problem with like a lot of belief systems is based on the fact that there has to be a starting point,
But there has to.
but not necessarily.
But do you have evidence to
That is a
contrary?
fallacy to assume that time had a beginning.
Okay, so do you have any evidence
Well,
contrary to that?
let me ask you this: is time ever going to end?
Is time ever going to end? No. What we agree,
So how can it begin?
because we can believe,
Surely it's just
we
it's forever.
accept infinite post-eternally, but not pre-eternally.
Why
Because
is
what that means is, because we believe in hell and heaven, but that hell and heaven depends on God. So post-eternally, this way, God created, let's suppose, our universe from here, yeah? Okay, God has always existed, yeah? God Almighty has always existed. The question we're asking is, what caused it? People say, oh, it came from nothing. That's an impossibility. From nothing, nothing comes. It came by chance. What kind of chance? It's always been there. Prove to me. You have to prove to me the concept of infinite. If you say it was always there, this concept of infinite doesn't exist in the real world. There's no such thing as infinite in our real world. Actual. There's in mathematics, there's possible infinity, potential infinite. But I'm talking about there is no concept of that. What we go back to is the Big Bang. And what we're saying is what caused it to explode.
So are you claiming that, or are you saying that it's a big jump to say that there has to be a deity or something? Do you think it's like
Yeah.
No, but
There's a lot. Like
no,
even
but
if there was
it
a
could've been
first
caused by anything.
instance.
No, but the thing is, but the thing is, when it comes to rationality and logic, that is the best explanation. For example, we know it cannot come from nothing, so therefore we have to accept that something was caused, which we accepted.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
I just think-
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I'm saying I think you have a good argument, but I don't think that's definitive proof to like there is a God. It could have been anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think like
Okay.
Also, like, even if you're right and there was a God and there's a first God, like, why, there's so many religions, like, and I grew up in a Mormon church for like 16
yes.
years. I was fully convinced. Like, no one's beliefs could tell me any different that I was wrong.
Yeah. No,
But, like,
100%.
in reality, there's so many different gods and different forms that the start of the universe can take.
Okay, what we say is that.
And how would we
You can't rely on
No,
anyone.
I'm so sorry.
and how would we know about God? Like, is something that we've made up? Is it?
Okay, so what we say is that, look, I'm not talking about religion, I'm putting religion to a side for now. What I want to do is I want to establish if God exists or not and going through the best possible explanation with our logic. Because when we wake up, we use our rational logic on a day-to-day basis. You guys came here today, why? Because you said, let's visit Speaker's Corner. You gave yourself a purpose, you put your shoes on, you came here. You didn't wake up and say, maybe I'm in the Matrix. Let's go Speaker's Corner. Hey, what's Speaker's Corner? It doesn't exist. Am I here? You didn't do that. You went with your best logical explanation of I exist. That's what Rene Descartes said, yeah? I think, therefore I am. Yeah? So meaning that you woke up, you use your rational logic to put your shoes on, have breakfast, get ready, wear a nice shirt like this, yeah? You went in the mirror, you went in the mirror and said, look, I'm gonna look smart. You gave yourself a purpose with a nice jeans. Are you guys a couple, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, good. If you get married, call me to your wedding, please. So the point is this, yeah? I'm just trying to say, even you guys coming together, you know what, you was attracted to her, she was attracted to you. You use logic and rationality to build a relationship. What we're saying is, use the same logic and rationality to say, hold on a second, it cannot come from nothing. Therefore, it requires a cause. Now, you can have a right to say, hold on a second, Ali. Okay, a creator exists, but how is it Allah? You have a right to ask that. I'm not going down that route yet. All I'm just saying is, does it make plausible sense to the best explanation that a creator exists?
No, I'm still not convinced that there was an initial thing. Like,
So you believe it was always there?
there's no evidence to suggest either way. So why should I be convinced?
We do have
that there's a God?
evidence for cause and effect, but we have
Theoretically, like, that makes sense that there has to be, in our understanding of things, there has to be
Yes.
a first thing.
Exactly.
I don't think we can comprehend the fact that maybe time is endless.
No, but time is irrelevant. So for example, if I have an empty glass, yeah, this is an empty bottle. if we give this infinite amount of time, I would have a chocolate cheesecake with 4 strawberries on it. The point is this: time is irrelevant to the question because the elements to make a chocolate cheesecake with 4 strawberries are not in the bottle. So giving it time, saying infinite or billion years, is irrelevant to the equation because the elements to make the cheesecake is not in there. So what I'm trying to say is to say if you give it this time or that time, this will happen. It's not relevant to the equation here. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, but what if hypothetically, the universe began, then it didn't begin, it's just always been there, and there were just a lot of nutrients, a lot of minerals, a lot of all this stuff in the universe that just eventually just came together and just made the world the way it is. Why does it have to be nothing?
Okay, but the point is this, why do you go to that example, which we don't have infinite? Infinite doesn't exist in the real world. We know there's an expansion of the universe. It's expanding. So if we rewind it, it has to go to a singular point. Yeah? And even there, it's like what caused it. What you're saying is that it was always there. So you're saying it is... Sorry. What you're saying here is that it was always there. Infinite. You have to prove that. Does infinite exist in the real world? I'll give you an example.
Well, I don't have to prove it though, because I'm not relying on... I'm not relying on a concept of a human-esque kind of God. You know, I don't have to. I'm not trying to establish a religion. I'm just basing it on.
No, forget religion. I'm not talking about.
God is religion.
No, I'm not talking about religion. Yeah.
They're inseparable.
No. But first, we need to establish if God exists. Then religion is the next step. If I have an infinite amount of bananas and I eat 2, how many bananas do I have? That's it contradicts it because infinite has no. You can't have infinite plus 1 or infinite minus 2. It contradicts infinite. My point is the following: we know infinite doesn't exist in the real world. There's no such thing as infinite in the real world. Therefore, if we don't have that explanation, and we know by logic that from nothing comes, it requires us to logically accept that there was a cause. Something caused it. Not a man. I'm not saying it's a human being. I'm saying a creator must have caused it.
Because I feel like this question is perhaps the biggest indication that there is a God, because like it's very difficult to answer. You know, I mean, if there is an initial point in a universe, what caused that cause?
I don't know, like that analogy of bananas doesn't really relate to the concept of time. Like, what if you have an infinite amount of time and you take away 2 seconds, how much time to play? That doesn't make sense.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, God Almighty tells us that He takes an oath by time. He says, I am time. So what we're trying to say is that God has always existed, which was my first explanation about the independent being. He's independent, self-sufficient. We are dependent on food and other elements, and our universe is dependent on things. He is the seabed that everything falls back on and is independent. So He is infinite. I accept that. Time was not created for Him. What we're trying to say is that He gave rise to us. We had a starting point. He didn't. So that's why we're saying is what caused it. It has to be God. That's my claim anyway. Look, I'm not pushing on you. I'm just trying to say it's just thought-provoking. Like, just something. Yeah.
Because it is like I said, it's a very strong question to ask. What caused this? And why are the people claiming that there is an entity that caused it? It's a 2 separate questions.
What do you think the purpose of God is?
Okay, good. So what we say is